Hey, Work Positive Nation, what would life be like for you if you look forward to work days like you do the weekend? If you anticipated Monday as much as Saturday? I bet you're thinking, get real, Dr. Joey, that's impossible. Well, my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast believes you can transform work days into play days. And he's going to tell you how right now. He combines positive psychology and play to heal work cultures, to help teams like yours build psychological safety, and also to assist individuals in addressing their biggest challenges by embracing a play orientation to work. He's well known. The New York Times, HuffPost, Wired have all featured him. He's worked with Google, Microsoft, Southwest Airlines, Adobe, the NFL, Amazon, and Facebook, helping teams infuse more play into their day-to-day. His main goal is to help work suck less by assisting leaders just like you to build a playground culture that stimulates teams to do their most vibrant work. So how about it, Work Positive Nation? Ready to play along? Then let's go.
Welcome to the Work Positive Podcast with your host, executive coach and culture architect, Dr. Joey Fawcett. Discover strategies and tactics that work positive as Dr. Joey talks with industry leaders who create a positive work culture that attracts top talent and reduces team turnover. Discover how you can create a work positive culture that increases productivity and profits. Here's your host, Dr. Joey.
Work Positive Nation, help me welcome the man with two first names, count them, two first names, and a haircut like mine, Jeff Harry. Jeff, welcome to the Work Positive Podcast, brother. I love you, man.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've learned so much so far. I'm excited to have the conversation.
Yeah. You should have heard the first 15 minutes of this interview. But Jeff, I love to play. You love to play. This is a playful episode of Work Positive Podcast. I mean, we take work seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because I can get all up in my stuff, my own grill sometimes, right? Got to get out of my way to play. So play and a positive work culture seems like a natural fit. You love positive psychology. I love positive psychology. Mm-hmm. What's something you love most about positive psychology?
The main premise of positive psychology, which is that other people matter, right? Oh. Like that's the basis of everything. And I think a lot of people don't, understand. Positive psychology just got founded in like 1978 by Dr. Marty Seligman, right? So up until that point, psychology had only been studied, only the negative parts of psychology had been studied. So
the
like
fact
how
that your mom and daddy screwed you up, right?
Right, exactly. So the fact that this one person was like, okay, let's double down on what's good. Yeah. Was really powerful. And I think when I first was training around it, one of the favorite things that the professor that was teaching us would always talk about is like, there's plenty of work for all of us. Because there's a lot of toxic workplaces. There are a lot of places that are really struggling.
Dude, and you heard that too? I heard that.
And it's just, and then instead of like this competition, even in how we do our work, we're like, hey, let's look out for each other. Hey, let's throw work towards each other. Because in the end, we're all doing really important work that is trying to make work suck less, right? Trying to make a positive place that people actually want to go to work.
Yeah, exactly. And collaborate instead of compete and compare, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the way I like to talk about it. Marty was a great guy. I unfortunately did not have the chance to know him personally, but one of his, in fact, the chair of the department in which he taught was a dear friend of mine. He just passed away recently. And so he used to tell me Marty's stories. And he was all that in a bag of chips, man. He was a great guy. All right. So let's say that I want to attract top talent. And because everybody's looking for top talent today.
Yep.
Okay. I know the unemployment rates are supposed to be low and we just added more jobs than forever, right? However, a lot of people I know are looking for it because their work culture sucks, like you're talking about. So if I'm wanting to attract top talent that fits in with my desire to put play into a positive work culture, how do I begin that conversation to determine if this person's going to play well with others?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think even before you start thinking about how do I get this particular person, you have to look at the culture that you currently have, right? So I would ask something like this, and people don't like me asking this question, stating this. I heard this from John Amici. Work culture is defined by the worst behavior tolerated.
Wow.
So what's the worst behavior you're tolerating? Address that, right? Once you address that, that starts to build a certain level of psychological safety. You will know that you're getting psychological safety because people that rarely speak up all of a sudden are speaking up more. And then you can be like, okay, how do we start to recruit top talent, right? Because then you're just not BSing people and being like, oh, this is a great work culture. Oh, yeah. Oh, look how happy people are in my brochure. Do you see all the happy smiles? Look on our
stock
website.
Photos, right?
Check out all these stock photos. We spend a lot of money on these stock photos. These aren't even our employees. These are just random people we found.
But we're talking to them.
But we're talking to them. They're here.
Yeah. If you give up the modeling gig, come on. You can work for us.
I think a lot of people don't realize, and this, I don't even know if this is generational, but with at least Gen Z, they can smell BS from a mile away.
Sensitive BS meters, man.
Yeah, and I actually even ran a workshop called "Making Work Suck Less" by fixing broken HR systems with my friend Sam Smeltzer, and we would talk about in the recruiting process, stop lying in your posts.
Yeah.
Stop, or if not lying, embellishing. Right, just be honest. There was a job posting that we always share in our talk around in the 1900s of these guys that were going to Antarctica, and the job posting was like men wanted, cold winters may die. Like it was like the worst job posting, but it was very clear, like high likelihood of death. But you may also discover parts of Antarctica. Do you want to go? And just being that honest, everyone survived that trip because they were clear about what the job was. So instead of us embellishing and trying to trick people into liking our organization, just being also honest about what it is, and then also, that honesty and that transparency also creates a certain level of psychological safety that people are like, oh, they're cool. Oh, they're at least going to be willing to, be honest with me. It's like when you're at a restaurant and a waiter is like, let me tell you what is actually really good and what's bad. And you're like, thank goodness. Thank goodness. Thank you for that.
That's what I always ask, what's your favorite entree on the menu?
Right. And they're like, my favorite entree is in another restaurant, not here.
2 blocks down the street, you'll find some really good food. Yeah. Well, and it's the ultimate in bait and switch, right?
Yeah.
When we're doing that. And so what we do is from the get-go, demotivate people to do their best and to have peak performance. That's why I prefer, Jeff, the word attract rather than recruit.
Yeah.
Because recruit almost sounds like you're trying to sell me a bill of goods or something, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to BS me into coming to work here. And once you trick me into doing that and I leave my other job, you got me now, right? Because I agreed to stay for X amount of time thanks to the signing bonus and blah, blah, blah. So attraction means I'm working on us and I'm being honest about who we are. Right? Yeah.
And a great example of that is the Milwaukee Public Library, which is really weird because I'm like, why would anyone care about the Milwaukee Public Library? I do, though, is because they started making videos of their staff just being nerdy librarians, right? And they were ridiculous. Some of them, they were dancing. Some of them, they're just, I don't know, reading books, whatever. They're
reading books.
They're just showing what a librarian does because most people don't know what a librarian even does. So they started making these videos back in, I think, 2021, and their social media blew up so much that all these people that have never cared about public libraries all of a sudden were really interested in them. Yeah. And then it increased the amount of people that were willing to apply because they showed a glimpse of what it would be like to actually work at Milwaukee Public Library. And it wasn't the professional videos. Right. It wasn't like, this is how great this place is. It just was people being themselves. And then others being like, I want to work at a place like that.
Yeah, man,
That's attracting. That's not recruiting.
That is total attraction. Yeah, now everybody's Googling Milwaukee Public Library.
Milwaukee Public Library. Look them up. It's fascinating.
So I
TikTok
got this,
and Instagram.
Okay, so I got this speaking gig invitation with a state association of librarians. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, oh, crap, this is going to be like, boy, what am I going to do? I got to put on the somber face, like this. Dude, at the mixer the night before I spoke, it was a conga line.
So much fun. They're so much fun, right? Librarians are the best.
I mean, it like totally redefined my idea of who librarians are and what they do. In fact, I kind of wish my wife was with me that night, just because there was a lot of rowdy librarians. I'm just saying. They had read.
Like, help me get out of this conga line. I need to get out. I've been in this conga line for an hour.
Hey, lady, hands on the hip, not the buttocks, okay? It was crazy, man. So, yeah, to your point, let's attract people by being honest and authentic and somewhat transparent, right? Okay, so Jeff Harry's my guest, right? Jeff, what's the website? Because somebody, after they Google Milwaukee Public Library, they're going to want to Google you. What's a website they can go to?
My website's Rediscover Your Play.
RediscoverYourPlay.com.
.com. Yep, Rediscover Your Play.
All right, cool. So you can go there and see all kinds of stuff. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. So I do a great job of being transparent and authentic and keeping it real, and I attract top talent. Now, how am I going to keep them? Because there are companies out there that are shameless poachers.
Yeah.
And they're going to come after your people. What do I do to reduce my team turnover?
So that's a great question. So I remember at a former job of mine, a colleague of mine was offered his dream gig to work for like a board game company that he's always wanted to work for. And he went, and then he came back to us.
Oh, wow.
Even though it was his dream gig, because like when he got there, toxicity of the workplace, much more pressure and demands, not flexible with his family. Like you got to figure out what that person's language of appreciation is, right?
Yeah.
How do they want to receive, right? Or, do they want gifts, which means like, do they want money? Like, I just want bonus, right? Do they want quality time? Do they want acts of service? Like, hey, let me look out for you so you can go home early. The words of affirmation, meaning like not just giving praise to you, but giving praise to you through other departments, just in case they would ever want to transfer. By us like allowing this person to be like, hey, we're here to help you with your dreams. We know you may not be here forever. Actually, many times gets people to stay longer because you're looking out for them, not just looking out for you. The reason why there's such a gap right now between employers and employees, right, or managers and staff is because especially during the pandemic, there was, without even saying it, employers communicated how little they cared about their staff, how expendable they are, right?
Yeah.
And I remember this
essential,
right? I remember recently this happened with Spotify. Spotify, highest profitable quarter of all time in their company, and then laid off 17% of their staff. Like and had no reason. Like their reasoning was just like, this is just how the marketplace works, and and we got to cut unnecessary jobs. And you were like, dude, we just worked so hard for you.
Busted it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You lied and poorly.
And then you laid off, and then you're letting go of this amount of people, and then you're using that extra money to buy back stock to increase the stock price that C-suite executives can make a little bit more money.
Just a shell
Come
game.
on now. That practice is old and antiquated, and we need to stop doing that.
And it's short term.
It's so short term.
Because that house of cards collapses.
Yeah.
And then word spreads, and it's like, don't go work for them because they'll screw you. They'll suck you dry and throw you in the ditch, right? So what you're saying is treat people like people, put the human back in human resources.
Yeah.
And understand they've got a life. You reminded me, by the way, of Gary Chapman's book, 5 Languages of Appreciation. Great book. So if I treat people the way that they want to be treated and express appreciation to them, then I'm keeping the relationships vital and vibrant, and I know what they are, and my team will tell me everything I need to know, right?
And also you need to understand why they're there. Like, you need to understand the story that got them here. I mean, we do, whenever we're training with an organization, we go, okay, what's part of your onboarding process? And they're like, we show them the paperwork, and then we have them go through the documents, and you're like, no, dude, like, why? Like, when do you sit down with them and explain and ask them why they're here? Why did they come to this company? Yeah. Because I used to do at a former place of mine is we would have everyone share their why. And how their why ties in with the company's why. And then we would share the story also of the organization so that they saw alignment, right? Before we did any paperwork, before we did anything else, because you have to understand what is their motivation for being there. And also for people that have been there for a really long period of time, has their motivation changed? Are they still there for the same reasons? That's good. If they're just there to just collect a paycheck and they're like, I'm good, I'm not doing anything more than that, there's something underneath that might have them quit soon, So you really have to get back to, like, what are you doing here in the first place? What value does this job bring to your life, and how can we make it better for you?
Yeah, or they might have already quit. They were just quiet about it.
Yeah. They quit a year ago, but they're still working for you.
Their butt's still in the seat, right?
Yeah.
Rediscoveryourplay.com is the website. Jeff Harry is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. We're having fun. Work Positive Nation, you're playing along, right? So, Jeff, help us understand, what are the challenges to putting play into our work cultures? First, let's talk about that.
So, forced fun sucks.
You mean if you just get in my face and say, you will have fun, Joey?
I'm a play person, and I hate forced fun. And what is forced fun? It's getting people to have fun or getting people to play when they don't want to. Stop that.
You will have fun.
Stop taking your staff to an escape room and thinking Samantha's going to like Chad after you leave the escape room. No, they're going to still hate each other. No. When I describe play as play is any joyful act where you forget about time, right? It's where you are in flow. And when you're in flow, you're actually 5 times more productive. Yep. So when I say, like, let's build a psychologically safe playground at work, what I'm telling you is create an atmosphere where people are willing to play with their work, right? They're willing to be more creative. They're willing to they're open to failing, right? Because this is part of the process of like iteration. In NASA, they are like, a friend of mine used to work for NASA, and she would say, I go to work every day trying to break the Mars rover. My goal is to actually have it fail. Because I want it to fail here so that when we send it 1 million miles away, we'll know when something breaks that we know how to fix it, right? So, like, creating this atmosphere for people to be able to test and be creative and try new things and be innovative, like, all that comes with play. That's the type of play. But if you're just like, yo, let's go play pickleball and then everyone's going to get along, it's like, come on, dude. Like, we still need to have hard conversations because we haven't even talked about certain things. So I don't trust you enough to play yet, right? You have to create the atmosphere first before you start having people, like, there's no quick fix with a ping pong table or bowling. And I think as managers rush to that rather than being like, okay, how do I create this atmosphere? And then also the other challenge for leaders is just like, how are you playing? You want to model for other people? Then all right. Then how are you playing at work? How are you taking risks? How are you showing that I can take a risk and fail and it's okay? Right? Because that's where all the innovations is. The innovations in the failure, people. But if you're not willing to do that, then you're going to become obsolete like Sears and Blockbuster. So like, how are you? Let's figure out, what we're doing to create that psychological safe place to play.
Yeah. So a forgiveness culture is necessary.
Yeah.
Because I got to be able to, as my friend Dr. Bob Johansson says, I got to be able to get to the edge of my competence and fail graciously, learn from it, and then be able to move forward, right?
Yeah. And I have this making work suck less framework on my website.
Okay.
And one of the first things I tell people is just like, you need to apologize. And you're like, what do I got to apologize for? And you're just like, even if you didn't do it, so many employees have been treated so badly for so long, and especially was so blatant during the pandemic that, like, you just simply being like, I know it's been tough, like it's been rough. Like, one thing I do, so I'm flying a lot because I'm speaking all over the country, and I give a thank you card and chocolates to all the flight attendants whenever I go on a plane, right? So I did it like 100 times last year, right? And in the letter, I go, us passengers have been awful. You're right. And I'm like, I'm sorry for that. But just know that there's many of us that really do appreciate all that you do. I didn't do anything. I didn't do it. I didn't cause certain problems, but I'm apologizing for it because it's not that big of a deal. It's just not that big of a deal. Right. So just owning that as soon as someone arrives to an organization, be like, hey, I know it's been tough out there. And a lot of employers have been treating people really crappily. We're learning from that. That's what we're learning from in our organization. This is how we treat our employees. That would speak volumes.
Yeah. Well, when you can move beyond the blame game, and just really get to that point where you're secure enough in who you are, you can empathize, right? And just say, yeah, it's been tough. I know I didn't do it to you, but somebody did.
Somebody did.
Sorry about that, because it's that projection and transference. I get blamed for what the last guy did or
They're bringing all of that trauma, that work trauma from the last 3 jobs to your job, right?
Exactly.
So, and you may not know that. So where you can be transparent about, like, hey, I get it. It's been tough out there, can go a long way.
Yeah. And stop that projection and transference, or what I like to call delivering the mail to the wrong address.
Right.
I might not have done it, but I'm being held responsible for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just going to say, sorry.
Yeah.
Now, what can we do to move forward?
Now, what can we do? Now let's move forward.
And Jeff, seems like that vulnerability just goes so far in overcoming most challenges to creating a positive work culture.
It does, but the problem is a lot of managers suck at it. So let's just be real, right? And I've been saying this more and more in my talks. Like, you got a lot of managers that got promoted because they were good at the last job, but they suck as leaders.
The Peter principle.
And you got to decide: are they trainable? Or are they just not the right fit and they got to move to another job or another part of the bus, right? Or maybe they're just not a right fit for the organization anymore, right? Yeah. And that's a really hard decision to have, because we all know that there are a lot of managers right now that should not be managers. And the most ironic part is I read a study recently that managers, I think 70 to 80% of them have no management or leadership training, right? Yeah. But when you ask them, what do they least like to do? It's training. So, like, they don't even want to get better. So, like, that's a problem. That is a problem. You want managers that want to be you want leaders that want to be leaders, right?
Yeah,
and not someone that just wants a higher paycheck but is not willing to do the work. And by work, I mean the relationship building work, because that's the real work. Not, I have to get all this stuff done. Because it's not about getting the stuff done at this point. It's about you motivating staff to get the stuff done, because you can't do everybody's job and you can't micromanage them. Like, that's just not, it's just not healthy.
No, because, oh, by the way, they're not going to do it the way you did it, buddy.
They're not going to do it the way you did it.
Yeah. So really it's the culture that taps someone for this promotion to be a manager because they were good at a certain set of technical skills. Without asking those questions to say, hey, do you like people?
Right.
At least let's get that baseline established.
Right. Do you like telling people what to do and then getting pissed off when they don't do it? Like, are you okay with that?
Or do a coach assessment with them, to find out what kind of coach they can be to guide people along, because that's a great frontier today, right? So the company culture is what just takes the easy way out and says, okay, you're good at XYZ, then you'll be a great manager. Welcome to managing. And then SHRM does a survey and finds about 60% now of all people are leaving a job because of a bad manager.
Bad manager, yeah.
How's that working out for you? Doing it that way. So just recognizing that management requires a different set of skills than the technical skills, and making sure there's some baseline in play there.
Well, we also have to measure. Well, we also have to decide what we consider success too, right? Because we're still measuring success by the same metrics we did in the 1800s in the U.S., right? Where like this person's picked X amount of cotton, so then let's promote them and then get everyone else to pick more cotton. Like it's the productivity measurement doesn't take into account like people's willingness to stay, right? Like, who are the leaders that are able to retain staff? That should be a measurement. That's not. That's not. We think so short term in these quarters or yearly, metrics. When you look at companies in Japan that've been around 50 to 100 years. When they strategically plan out, they talk in 10-year increments. 10 years. We're talking in quarters. Like, what are we like? What is the goal? Is the goal the longevity of the organization? Are you trying to sell this organization? Are you trying to go up public? Like, we have to understand whose motivations are we trying to achieve? Just C-suite executives so they can get bonuses and get huge buyouts? Or are we thinking about the entire organization as a whole and being like, if we want to be around 10, 20 years from now, what are we doing from a longevity standpoint in a way to measure success? That's a different metric than just totally quarterly different revenues.
And my friend Jody Thompson from Culture RX would want to insert right here, time. Do they, are we just measuring by how much time they spend on the job, regardless of the productivity or what have you? Jeff Harry is my guest on this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. He's amazing. You've gotten just a small taste. This is like the appetizer. You want the full course. You want the entree. Jeff, we go to rediscoveryourplay.com. What are we going to find?
Well, if you come to my website, you're going to find a lot of silliness, a lot of ridiculousness.
That's good.
You're going to find me challenging a lot of the status quo of work and basically saying, work does not have to suck. Yeah. And if you're simply willing, even if you don't bring us in, simply just willing to infuse more play and positive psychology in your workplace, not only will you have a better time at work, but your staff will actually stay. The other place they can find me, in addition to rediscoveryourplay.com, I'm at all the social media channels at Jeff Harry Plays, JeffHarryPlays, where I make a lot of videos. Sometimes I wear a wig when I make these videos, I mock work culture.
You're betraying your bald brotherhood. What?
I know, man. Yeah, can you believe that? I got to take on different personalities in my videos.
Okay. All right.
So yeah. Check out my nerdy videos. They're ridiculous.
Hey, Work Positive Nation always wants to know, Jeff, what's one thing they can do today? So, Jeff Harry, what's your one thing that Work Positive Nation can do today to create a positive work culture?
Ooh, if there's one thing, you find that toxic person at your company and you figure out what is the plan to address this person so that everyone can enjoy work once again. Whether that's reprimanding them, whether that's letting them go, or whether that's just being nice and being like, hey, your behavior should change. And once you do that and they get with the program, the work culture can change for everybody.
Beautiful. I love it. I call those persons Eeyore vampires, by the way.
I call it by a name that starts with the letter A, but we don't have to go there.
Well, that's in our more private conversation.
Exactly.
This is a family-rated show. Jeff Harry, rediscoveryourplay.com. Wherever you hang out on social media, go to Jeff Harry Plays. You'll find him there. I can't wait to dig into some more videos because, well, while I love being bald, I like Jeff Harry with hair too. So it's pretty cool. Jeff, thank you so much, man. This has been a fun episode. It's been amazing to be with you. I love you, man. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. And I love that we stayed under the hourglass time. Let's go.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Work Positive Podcast. Please share this podcast with your friends who are HR and small business leaders so they can do one thing today to create a positive work culture that increases productivity and profits. I'd like to give you a free Work Positive course just for listening. It's called Something to Talk About, and it's transformed the work conversations of so many people all over the world. Get your free copy when you go to workpositive.today/something to talk about, and you can start transforming your conversations today. Remember, it pays to work positive.